I had a client that called me, or I called him to check in, and he was going, he goes, I'm at the dealership. I'm picking up a new truck. Huh? And I said, who are you there with? I'm here with my mom and my sister. I said, put your mom on the phone. I said, take your baby boy's hand and walk him out of the dealership if he wants to buy a house. And she grabbed him and walked him out. I said, wait till after you bought the house, and then you can go buy a truck and put in the driveway. Top 6 things. Here we go. Let's try it again.
Avoid these home buyer mistakes. Top six things. Number 1, putting offers on anything.
Yeah, I mean, I have people when I sit down with them and talk to them and say, we're going to be looking at a lot of houses, and we're going to start putting offers in. And if we don't get the first ones, don't worry, we will. But I don't want you to get to the point to where it's like we put offers on 5 or 6 houses and we didn't win because, there's 15, 20 offers on there and we're doing our best. But suddenly you're just like, let's just put an offer on that house. You can't just settle. I tell people because I'll more than likely grab your hand and say, hey, let's walk out. Unless you love the house, just be patient. We'll find that house. Unless you're in a desperate situation, you need a house. But, we've got to, be realistic and get what you want. Don't just put an offer on something because you're not getting anything else. Something will pop up. It will.
Yeah, absolutely. Great things. If you wait, something will pop up that you like.
Be patient. Yeah, get what you want. Don't make a bad decision.
Number 2, going above your budget.
Yeah, I always tell people, I don't want you to buy something. When we sit down, I always say, find out from your lender what your max is, but then break it down into monthly payments because, we talked about this in other videos, is I have clients that can go into the millions of dollars, but they don't want to have the payment for millions of dollars. So you have to find out what you can afford, stick with that because I don't want you calling me in 6 months that you guys are struggling to make payments. I want you to be happy with your purchase and comfortable. You don't want to be house poor where you can't do anything else. That's the biggest thing. So stay within your budget, have a plan, and just stick to it. That's going to be the best thing for you.
Can you explain that, being house poor?
Yeah, let's say you bought a house, you wanted a house where your payments were going to be $3,000 a month, and now you have a house of $4,000 a month, and you can't eat out anymore. You can't afford to go on vacation. You can't afford these extra things until you're making more money because everything's going into this house. And once you start owning the house, don't forget, you now have to mow the lawn, or pay for a gardener. You got other added expenses in a house. It's like owning a car. Something breaks down, you got to pay for it. It's not on the landlord anymore. It's up to you. So definitely don't put yourself in a bad position.
Absolutely. Number 3, being indecisive.
Yeah, that's another thing is if you got to know ahead of time. When we go through a crystallization process with my clients where they already see what they want ahead of time. It's almost like what do athletes do? Like you used to see Greg Louganis. It kind of dates me. Great diver back in the 80s. The guy was incredible in the Olympics, right? And he would sit there on the pool deck with his eyes closed and moving his arms and going through the dive he was going to do. It's like visualization. And knowing exactly what he wanted to do. And it's the same thing with buying a house. You have to know exactly what you want so that you can go in and make the decisions. And when we find it, you're making that decision. You don't want to go, well, let me think about it. Because I talked to somebody about this the other day. I had a client, house was, came up on a Saturday or a Friday on the market. And then suddenly they were like, well, let's go see it on Tuesday. I'm like, you can't wait till Tuesday. And I can't go this week. I said, okay, well, I'm just letting you know it's probably gonna be gone. And by Tuesday, I got a text in the morning from the agent, the listing agent, going, we've already got 15 offers in the house. Sorry, we're not showing it anymore.
Whoa.
And so, if you see something you want to go get it, we got to go. Yeah. I always tell people, if I'm available, I will go at 9 o'clock at night. Make sure we get that house, but you've got to make the decision to go see it because if it's out there, it's in this market, it's moving. So you've got to make the decision quickly. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 4, getting cold feet.
That's another thing. People will get into, where they want to purchase that house or they're walking through the house and it's something like, oh, I don't know. And we walk through a house and there might be a little crack in a window or a wall, or maybe the water heater doesn't look great. I always ask the question, well, is that something you're willing to walk away from the house for? There's scratches inside of the porcelain in the sink. Is that something you're going to walk away because we can spend $150 and get that reglazed? We can do things. You're not going to walk into the perfect home. And so most people I talk to are like, well, we'll take some things we need to fix and things like that. So it's just, don't get cold feet because a couple little things are wrong with it. Remember, the big picture is getting the house. That's the big picture at the end of the day.
Number 5, not saving enough.
That's going to be the biggest thing. Well, number one, let's go back to number 1 on Agent B's list is we're not going to look at houses unless you're pre-approved.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be pre-approved unless you have money for the down payment. Mm-hmm. So you need to, and so you need to get that full pre-approval done, because then you can determine what you can and can't afford. And start saving money. If you want to own a home, how much, you're sitting there sipping a drink of whatever that thing costs. Let's say that's a $5 drink you've got going there, mm-hmm. and you're doing that 8 times a week. It's $40 a week, $160 a month. Get that expense out of there and start saving for a down payment on something. You're going to need it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely. Number 6, the final mistake people need to avoid, which is changing their financial situation. Can you talk about this, Agent B?
Please. Especially once you get into escrow. If you put an offer in a house, you get into escrow. I always tell you, do not go out and make any major purchases. Don't go open up any lines of credit. Don't go buy a car. Don't quit your job. There's one. Don't quit your job. So I'll tell you 2 stories. One is I had a client that I'll tell you 3 stories actually. One is I had a client that about 5-6 days before we were supposed to close escrow, gave me a call and let me know that they already bought all their furniture. I was like,
which you would think is a smart thing. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, I want to buy my stuff before.
Yeah, get it out of the way, because when you're ready to move, boom, it's going to be delivered.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. because what happened is he bought his furniture. He opened up like an $8,000 line of credit at a furniture store, bought all this furniture. The underwriter then pulled his credit one more time before he closed and goes, oh, hey, guess what? Your debt to income ratio has now changed. You have to bring in an extra $15,000 to close this loan.
Oh, wow.
And he had to bring it in because he'd already removed all of his contingencies. So he had to bring in all this extra cash to close his loan. That's example number 1. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Number 2, I had a client that called me, or I called him to check in, and he was going, he goes, I'm at the dealership. I'm picking up a new truck. Huh? And I said, who are you there with? Oh, I'm here with my mom and my sister. I said, put your mom on the phone. I said, take your baby boy's hand and walk him out of the dealership if he wants to buy a house. And she grabbed him and walked him out. I said, wait till after you bought the house and then you can go buy a truck and put in the driveway.
Right.
Okay? Don't do that. Number 3, I had a lender call me 2 days before we were supposed to close because they did what's called a verification of employment, a VOE. And they wanted to check to make sure the guy was still employed. And the lender calls me and goes, hey, our client doesn't have a job anymore. What? He doesn't have a job anymore. What are you talking about? And he goes, yeah, they called the HR department. They said, oh, yeah, he still works here. But he gave his 2 weeks notice last week.
Oh, so too early, yeah. little too early.
Yeah, so I called my client and said, hey, anything you want to tell me? And he said, oh, I didn't think it'd be a big deal. I have a new job. Like, but you're changing jobs. Right. It's a big deal. So no, you can't do that. We were able to save it because luckily it was a lateral move to this new job. We're actually a little bit of a better move to where he got an increase in pay, but we had to get a letter from that new company showing his contract and what he would be making. We had to get a letter of him quitting this one and what was happening, but we ended up having to close a week later. And luckily, I'm very cooperative with other agents. And so I was able to call the list agent and say, here's what happened. And we were able to work it out. But where some people might be like, well, we're just going to cancel escrow on you and keep your deposit. And we'll go get the next person.
Right.
But we were very lucky that they still move forward. But please, don't quit your job.
Yes.
I don't care how much you hate your job. Just hang on until at least
you get the keys.
A couple weeks after. At least a couple weeks after. Okay? It was just like, and the guy didn't think it would be a big deal. No big deal. I quit my job. I'm like, you're trying to buy a house.
Yeah.
So that's probably the worst mistake you can make.
Cool. That's good to know.
That's why I'm losing my hair, man.
If you think about it, some of these mistakes that people made, I could see how I might do something like that.
People do it. That's why we sit down and talk about it, especially with new buyers. Sit down there and talk about it. If you want to find out about new buyers,
Yes.
You go to my webinar, cawebinars.com. Check it out. But I mean, these are things we talk about new buyers. Don't change your financial, kind of situation drastically during this time. If you're paying, like I've had clients call and say, well, I'm paying my bills. Should I pay like a little extra? I'm like, no, don't change anything. Just pay on time. And it's the same with people selling a home. It's like, they're like, well, my escrow payment's due. Should I pay that? Or my mortgage is due in like 2 weeks, but we're going to close in a month. Should I pay that? I'm like, pay it. Because you don't want to hurt your credit going forward either.
Right.
You just keep things status quo. Don't go crazy. Don't host all your buddies for a celebration party, because I always tell people, don't get excited until I've handed you keys.
Yeah.
Until you actually have keys in your hand, we're not done.
Right.
So that's how it works.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Cool.
Please, people, listen to Agent B.
And go to his webinar. All right. That's it for today. Thank you so much for that info. Cool.
Hey, you got it, man. See ya.